because we need some rules of engagement before I pass the word. So here there are two issues. First of all, we will be using Slido, and this I will have to show it again as some people are connecting still and they will connect later. But you can use this from the phone, the QR, if you want, or you can go to slido.com if you're on a computer with that code. This will allow to fill some initial question. I would like to ask speakers and participants not to have the phone ringing when they are not muted, or try to avoid being on the phone while participating. So the meeting is actually also live streamed, so and that will be staying in the YouTube channel. So this is a video that this will be available, and so that it's possible to find it in the SEP's YouTube channel. And keep on the Slido because there will be little quizzes throughout the session as it comes. So first I had one, but as attendees are slowly attending, I don't know how many will be able to fill it, but I will just start it and maybe I share it again a bit later again. So what I would like to do is, if you are on Slido, to start slowly filling up this question. As I've seen that there are people from quite a lot of places, so you can put your origin so that we can see where people are entering from. So here, for example, I'm actually from Spain, although I'm sitting in Brussels, but this is my origin. And I will let you fill it while we are talking. So I will now, while you are all on it, this Slido, I will put it on later to allow some more people to add it if they have not connected yet. So first of all, I will just pass the floor to my colleague Guy, that was the project leader. So please, Guy, if you can give us an overview. You need to unmute yourself. Yes. And there we go.
Now you can hear me, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry that there is a lot of fog in this country, so
yes. Yeah, in Spain, as you know, there is a lot of fog all the time, especially in the south, especially in Andalusia, which is a very rainy region, as you know. Well, let's give a quick overview of the Radio Agora project, which have been implemented in Spain, in Greece, in Italy, with the help of SEPs in Belgium. And basically, this project deals about visibility to the European cohesion policy in this southern European country. The consortium built around 3 media, the Hellenic Broadcasting Corporation in Greece, the Republic and TV, the Public Radio TV of Greece, Radio Popolare in Italy, which cover all the capital of Italy, and the Association of Public and Local Broadcaster of Radio and TV in Andalusia, EMARTV, which is the coordinator of this project and have 100 of local radio in our region. And these 3 media have been advised, and we have been working together with SEPs all along the project in order to give visibility of the impact of the European cohesion in policy in this country, in southern of Europe. Basically, this project is based on 3 axes. First one is, of course, we are media. The 3 of us are media. Different media, because we have public TV and radio in Greece, we have a cooperative of radio in Italy, local radio in Spain, but the core of our activity is broadcasting content that deals with public service. And the first acts of the project was, of course, to launch and broadcast a radio campaign about the European cohesion policy, the impact of its results in our region at local, regional, and national level, with different interview of high experts in each country that could explain to the citizen what it is about European cohesion policy, because it's heavily and very important in our daily life. But the problem is that the citizens do not really know and do not are conscious about this importance, about this influence that has the European cohesion policy in our life. So this was the first act of the project, dealing with a campaign, a radio campaign, 20 radio show in each country of 30, 40 minutes. With the COVID and the pandemic, we had to deal with some. We had to implement like a strategy also to deal with problem, because it has also to do, and we have been stuck to the actuality. We're stuck to the actuality, so that we could also cover all the topics that could have been linked to the European cohesion policy. This was the first act of the project. The second one was the realization of public radio debate in different cities and places in each country. Four public radio debates about four big main topics that are linked to the European cohesion policy. This debate was radio debates, but open to the public, so that it could have a retro, like some feedback about the people that were there listening to the radio debate, with inviting, of course, some high-level expert. And then after, we could have a reflection debate around the topic that have been covered during this debate: employment, climate change, territorial articulation, technology and innovation. All these very important topics in our life have been covered during this radio debate with all the public. It depends on the site, but it was like 20, 30, 50 people assisting to these debates. And then we could organize a debate, a public debate around these topics. And these topics have been synthesized in each country, so that we could be able to produce and to edit like some kind of document that could synthesize all the conclusion of the experts that have been invited, but also of the citizens that have assisted to these debates, so that we could have some kind of document that reflects the opinion, the analysis, and also the situation about the European cohesion policy, feeling about the people that how do they see this impact, the perspective, the balance, and the future of this policy. This important, really important point in each of our country in the south of Europe. And this document is, of course, all of the document, all of the material and project that I'm talking about are, of course, disponible and available in the website of the project, which is radioagora.org. So, each project that I'm talking about, the radio show, the debates, the video, these documents that have been translated in four languages: Spanish, Italian, English, and Greek, are available there, and of course could be download and see and read here in the website. And this was the second act of the project. And the third one was to give visibility, but so that we could also be able to use the social network, because we have as media to deal with different countries, so that we can reach different houses. And we have been also producing 30 different videos about emblematic project, 10 in Spain, 10 in Italy, and 10 in Greece, 30 in Greece, exactly, so that we could give visibility to some main projects that have been financed by by the European cohesion policy, and especially under under this policy. And so we made an interactive map that each country that could point out and see where have been implemented this project, what it is about. We give voice to the coordinator, to the people that have been involved in the project, to the beneficiaries, so that the people that can see this video have a good overview of each one, the impact that it has in each country. And these videos are in the website of the web in the interactive map of the website, and also have been, of course, broadcasted, diffused in the social network of the project and of each partners. And this was more or less the three axes of the project. And what I forgot to say, I guess it's an important figure. It's like in the three media partners had like a network of about 150 radios that represent more or less 6 million people as audience. So all the projects that have been realized under this project had quite a good impact, although it's difficult to evaluate the impact among 6 million auditors. We could imagine that that it had very good results as regards the impact of how to give visibility to the European cohesion policy. And to finish, this project have been financed under the Directorate General of Regional and Urban Policy of the European Commission. So I guess it's a way. It has been a good opportunity to use different channels, radio, video, public debate, production of a document that could be downloadable and read and analysis at European level, and all of this activity could not have been realized without SEPs that have been like our European specialists, and that have participated in all the debates of all the three countries, and especially Jorge, which is there. So well, I guess that it has been a project that has good results, and also that have raised debates and questions that we're going to see all along these debates, and that Jorge is going to talk about, which are the conclusion of the document that have been produced thanks to this debate around the European cohesion policy in these three countries. And I give the words to Jorge so that he could keep on. And thank you all to be there. It is a pleasure.
Okay, hello. Then I'm back. Now I have seen that if people are starting to use Slido, I will put again the code a second, so because many have not been connecting to it. So it's just because you have several questions. I have this citizen sufficiently informed about the EU cohesion policy. Then I have a question. Next question is about who is responsible. The information should be reinforced by whom. And then you have the news on something about the news on cohesion policy. And you have to at the end you will have to send the results so that you have to press send at the bottom, and then we will see them. Now back to the presentation. I will now share my presentation. Okay. So this is the report that has been produced, and I will give you a bit of an overview of the thoughts behind what has happened and the results, and a little bit of discussion to think about communication and communicating EU policies. It's sometime, it started before COVID at a certain point when public opinion started to change. I've been asked to get involved in quite a number of citizens dialogues, and now we had these radio programs. Yeah, this is something that for people like me and others that are Brussels-based people is challenging, because you are having to go and confront uh, people that see and live these things from a very different angle. And it's actually something I like to do very much, because it's very revealing to go and listen what's going on the ground. So I will give my impressions, but also the conclusions, and also the messages that the main messages that I was hearing there. Um, so from communication point of view, just a point about one of the characteristics of the EU is, first you have here Donald Trump releasing some of his fake news information and disinformation, everything you want, but he has the ability as the president of one country, and that is very large, to have one clear message. There is one clear nationality in that country, and the messages go directly. So it is something where a politician, which is part of the national structure, is just sending a tweet in this case, it could be another message. And that goes through really from at all the levels, from the desperate academics down to the loving people that maybe he has as supporters, to other people on the ground. So that is a clear, you know, a point where you have this level of governance, this federal state level is actually very much part of the daily life. For the European Commission, it sends its messages. Here's something on human rights, which is very exciting. It uses, it goes to Twitter. You have the English version that comes out and has the little detail that there are 27 countries, 24 official languages, plus important regional languages we don't have to forget. And in some regions, the main people are watching news and read in another language. I'm coming from Catalonia, and I know that some people there are practically hooked on the Catalan version of things, which is not an official language, but it is a language there. So we have additional languages, therefore we have nationalities and some extra national identities. They are, even in this case, in my country, they are considered nations inside the country. So the EU communications have a really difficulty to go down to the ground and, you know, reach everybody with some Brussels lounge information on cohesion policy and so on. So there is an issue here about how to actually reach properly with information to the different levels, given these hurdles compared to, let's say, a united single country entity. How do we explain policies for cohesion when you have, you know, certain kind of reactions? Here you have certain groups, the UK famous promise that they will use for the medical services, the money they were sending to Brussels, although they were taking the gross and not the net amount. And it's quite distorted. But who can explain this kind of complicated things? How do you do it? How do you reach down to that? We have Nigel Farage showing the incredible amount of immigrants coming in, although the UK was not in Schengen. And by the way, immigration from outside and who gets a work permit, it's still very much national in many cases. Even Schengen has some restrictions, but on top of it, they were not even in there. Then we have had the raising nationalism in the countries and a lot of misinformation. So what to do in these cases? It is true, I have seen that the European Commission has done very big efforts in improving communication. There is no doubt, but the challenge is very large. Policies are complex in many ways. The EU is talked about a lot, but not yet understood, and populism uses this space. You know, when there is an empty space, they come in. Popular opinion is in fact created very much nationally and locally. It's very hard to go and getting from here this a kind of opinion that is really influencing so much compared to, let's say, national journalists, national politicians, and people on the ground. So what we have seen a lot in the past have been that a lot of successes that are partially or related to EU funding or EU policies have been nationalized. This is politicians always consider themselves as the great architects at national level, but when there is a national problem, it's Europeanized. You have a crisis in the country, it is because of the euro, it's because of Europe, it's whatever. Very often it's caused very much about internal structural problems, but that's you know it's and there is very little to defend uh, the another narrative due to the distance. So people cannot, another issue is people cannot really relate to what the EU does personally. Very often the EU has been for many years very technical. You have programs, you have structure, you have plans, and people here there is funding, but it's not easily to relate uh, to it directly with the normal communication channels that the EU uses. So a conclusion and one of the issues that came clearly in all of this is that first of all, local language, communicating local language, communication with local media, have local links, and listening a lot and answering. I've done other debates. I have to say the first citizen debates were a bit tough. In some places, they really invited everybody, and there were some tensions. And you need to speak also in local language. I've done it in several languages, which is not very comfortable. It's not your personal language to speak to. But it is very important that they hear and see that there is a direct listening and direct contact. It changes perspective. We have done a poll in the beginning and the end in some projects. So it's for this was an important message here. The approach, I mean, Guy has explained it a bit, but it's really one of the things that this is something that I was asked first of all was to bring the technical part. It is important to start with a very simple way. First of all, is to give an overview of where people are, so that they can have a picture of what are the trends in the country, what's going on, what is the climate movement, what are the fundamental issues that are being discussed in a simple way, not complicated, not super graphs, just to give a point in time. This is where you are. These are your challenges. And this is a bit what the EU has and what are the funds in big. This is what the EU can do and cannot do. Just picture of this. So it places people inside someone. Otherwise, you have discussions that go in every direction. Then the debate can obviously be open. You need to be able to listen to different views, explain who does what in policy terms, what is responsibilities nationally, what is the EU, what can we do by whom, and this is presented by scientists, specialists, politicians, civil society, product developers. Or we had also Nicola and Michaelis coming. Thank you for coming. I mean, we had Commission also present in some of the events, so that they could also just give what they can do and not do. It's has to be frank. And you have here, I have put in bubbles, contradictory statement coming from the different, from the public. I also have in the first bubble something important. One of these things that I said about introducing the trends in the situation. For example, climate change, very basic messages. First of all, we have had a 1% increase in temperature that is proven, it's done, it's calculated, but it has had an impact of 3% because this is a Mediterranean country there. So to understand that, no, not everybody is not the same for Finland and for Spain or for Italy. An average of 3% is huge when you think about what it means when you're speaking about an average. So there you have a message that resonates immediately because it clarifies something in one sentence. This was a specialist in climate that was in our event. So the messages really, overall, even in the most, I mean, we have done it in Greece. I've been in all of the sessions I could. I missed ones from sickness, but I've been in all the 3 countries in, let's say, 80% of all the activities. Overall, I have seen that citizens have approved of the European ideal, of the European idea as the European Union as an objective. They are all very pro-European most of the time. Some are not, but generally, on percentage terms, mostly are. But there is a feeling, even for the most European of all, that they are feel a bit distant. and they got disillusioned by the lingering and successive crises. And they have a point. I mean, you have to think you're there, you get a crisis, another crisis, and you see the politics not being able to react properly, the EU policies will not be able to react properly. But let's not be fooling ourselves. The financial crisis and migration crisis. Now we have COVID, but we were not on COVID where we're doing the sessions. So that's why I don't put it there. But these two crises damaged a lot the trust on the EU. But it's not on the EU. It damaged the on all state institutions, member states. You know, member states' political the political situation in member states deteriorated. People were disillusioned, and they are knocking around, trying to find some answers. And this opens the door and fuels radical views. And this is why this project was also starting. There was a lot of xenophobia appearing, and a lot of quite worrying trends. And the fact that, I mean, honestly, looking at statements, you have politicians in countries in the UK that use really quite, let's say, wrong statements to get through. And I want that it is important that we all keep on, and this counts for every side. You know, try to keep avoiding to misinform citizens. This doesn't matter if you are pro-European or non-European. This is my opinion, but we have seen that there have been also a lot of views that have been contradictory and not very helpful from the point of view of public opinion. Information at local level is too scarce for the EU. This means too scarce in the sense that it's not very clear what the EU does or can address really. What is really its role? Everybody invents it a bit, and politicians make speeches accusing or not accusing. But actually, something that is clear for citizens at the local level, it's difficult on the news and so on. The news are obviously much more invaded by local issues that, and the EU just comes when something doesn't work really. And the question for citizens and people, if they are in the discussions where what can the EU done to defend citizens? Many people have seen the EU as a way to opening markets and bigger markets and trade and things. So in other words, is it defending or exposing? What is the role of the EU really? And this has fueled mistrust. Some of the main issues that have come from the discussions is the fundamental principle of European solidarity. That has come very often, and we know that with COVID there was a big issue with solidarity, equal opportunities issues, the balanced economic growth, environmental protection, and the climate change. These are very often a subject that worry people, and a lot of it you see equal opportunities, balanced growth, environment, and it's interesting that a subject was migration, while in Greece was an important discussion. But the issue was not challenging, in the discussions at least, was not about closing the borders. I know this, it's about management. What can the EU do to actually get this sorted? It's not so much that people are migrating, which is somehow seen everybody like it happens. A lot of people have been migrating out of the southern country with the crisis too. But it's rather how is this handled when you have common borders and so on. So these are issues that they were coming, and the discussions were very heated sometimes, very, very strong statements, and this has to be addressed. The more integration has been seen as positive for them, but there is really a disagreement on that in the discussion. So you see that the citizens are puzzled. Is it what should be the core, sustainability or competitiveness? And one of the questions was, is it both possible? And they have put these questions, and one needs to be able to answer them at the level where they are, at their place, in their environment, and not say the EU has a large project of horizon to cover innovation, and we have big projects to finance infrastructure. You have to really go. It has to be clear for them how they relate personally to that in their life. There is a consensus from more people that it needs more education, innovation, entrepreneurial support, a reform financial system. That is something that several people have been coming out saying there is something not working there. They are asking for more, for an EU really solidary, but so structured way to avoid these troubles that we have had. They want some guidance. There are local differences. This is not all of the countries were Mediterranean countries. They all have common challenges, for example, climate, but they all don't have the same goals, objectives, and strategies. And depending if it's an urban area or not, so we have three three different dimensions because we have a region. We have really Radio Popolare was doing events in Milan. This means that there is a lot more about this area, although the radio goes to others, but there was a focus on that area, and Greece was really a national program. So we see that and the differences is Andalusia was more worried about their traditional businesses. They want to have a bioeconomy approach. Milan was looking more about business leadership, and there was a lot of issues about the urban challenges that they were having. And they were actually very much pointing out into restructuring, reforming their public sector. They were not complaining so much about EU policies as they were complaining about themselves. Also interesting. This is similar also in Greece. There were some issues about the EU and how they intervene, but they also were very much looking at solutions that were how they do it themselves at home. So it is good governance at national level is very much a concern that they have. So it's not true that when you go, everybody's blaming Europe. They actually find that the EU is responsible in certain areas and should be clearer and more intervening with more clarity and putting the things being more active. But they don't think that Europe is the solution for everything. Not they blame it so much as some people may think so. All the regions are, of course, very concerned about climate change because their exposure is for them more obvious, and they look also for common approaches because climate is a common challenge. So they want that there is a common approach at the EU level. And there was an agreement that national local authorities have to better plan and implement EU programs, better use the funds. And they look for something to a more modern economy, but they really want a more solidary social system. And they are worried that growth-only-oriented policies do have an inequality issue in it and other impacts that they think have to be addressed, which is something that we were explaining that the EU is aiming for. So last message, the communication, I already mentioned some of it, but there is really a need for local engagements. There has to be a way to increase the programs like Radio Agora was doing, emitting programs. I have to say one of the issues that happened when the program finished is that there was an attempt from some partner, and I'm not going to explain in who, how, and what problems they had, but they were saying, yeah, we have all of the news, we have certain people that finance the stations and so on, and we cannot maintain a program that deals with EU policies because simply somehow we need to have the interest and the funding for it. And this sends a message saying you cannot expect charity from the media to cover this. So somehow either nationally they have to take more into this more seriously, or they have to be some programs. But there is a message that there is something missing because there is a way, we need to have a way for also explaining things, having people being trained and so on at local level. So there should be more effort in these directors with local people. We need also the interest. Important is that it's an open but independent debate. I say it all the time. I was demanding this when I was asked to join this project. I said, you know, I want like the citizens dialogue. I want to go in and the citizens be not selected, and I'm facing stones and tomatoes. I don't mind. It is very important to do that. Otherwise, it looks like we are in a close EU group that wants to speak nicely about their policies with like-minded people. We need to face that. And I have to say that not once DG Regio, not once interfered to tell anybody what to say, not today, who to invite, who not to invite, how to do it. And that I have to appreciate because this is the way to go forward. You really need to engage without having this any kind of restriction. I saw, so I'm very happy about this. And we have to aim that the EU policies become as common in information as the national ones. Of course, with the Green Deal and COVID and the recovery package, it has become so big that it is becoming national news, and it is becoming more direct because it's big. But it's interesting to notice that to say that it is important that the EU becomes like in the US in a certain way. You know, the president says something, it just it has to be seen as part of your national news. That's all. Here it is. The website, Radio Agora, is radioagora.org. The report is there. The debates are there. Look at the projects, and we have to think further about how to continue communicating. Thank you. And then I would like to pass. We are a bit late. We have to start a bit late. Maybe I spoke too long. Nicola, I think I pass you the word now.
Well, thank you, Jorgen. Thanks, and thanks to all the participants. Let me start with a blunt statement, which is that cohesion policy is still largely not very well understood. And this is why the work of Radio Agora and the work that you have done over the past months is very relevant, because it helps to have this conversation on how to tell stories about what the EU does, and in particular what this policy does. And Jorge was making reference to the new kid in the block, the recovery and resilience facility. And I think that this is interesting, because think of the raging debate in many of our member states on how to use this money, how a gigantic opportunity is there to change the destiny of many of our countries. And yet, let me put things a bit in perspective. The recovery and resilience facility is still represent, even in the biggest beneficiary of this fund, around 40% of what cohesion policy represents. And this is rather extraordinary if you think about it, of the absence of a discussion, of a public debate on a very significant investment policy co-financed by the Union. Only the 21-27 cohesion policy, the one that has to start, counts for around a bit more than 400 billion euro. And it represents in many member states and regions above 50% of the public investment in those member states, in those countries and regions. In my own country, cohesion policy has largely replaced national investment in many parts of the country. And yet, there is very little debate about it. We hear that it is a very old policy. We hear that it's not efficient. We hear that it is little known. We concentrate very much on when there are errors. The 2% error rate has made la une of many newspapers. And we don't talk about the 98% that this policy co-financed. There is even a debate on whether cohesion policy has contributed to the emergence of an anti-European sentiment. And in this respect, I invite you to read a document, a paper that will be published probably next week, prepared by one of our colleagues, Luis Dijkstra and Andres Rodriguez Pose, who does exactly that, look at whether cohesion policy has or has not contributed to the emergence of that anti-European feelings. I don't tell you what the conclusion of that study is. Have a look at it. Now, why is this happening? And let me start by the European level. There is clearly a political question, and the political issue is something that the European institution, the European Commission, has fought with over the past few years, which is how to tell a convincing story about a policy that is not directly managed by the Union, that is complicated, is the result of a complicated discussion and negotiation with the member state, what we called in our jargon a shared management policy. And in fact, that narrative has been very complicated and not tremendously convincing. And this is why the Union very often concentrate much more easily and at ease with other policies that it directly manages, so on which it has full control. And the other question is the metric that is used to explain what this policy does. And this is a metric that essentially played with two levels. A very macroeconomic level. Does this policy contribute to convergence? And you know, there is a vast literature discussing whether this policy has contributed or not to reduce disparities in the Union. And on the other extreme, looking very much at the local level with projects here and there throughout Europe to tell what the policy does. What is missing, I think, and is something that we have been trying to fill over the past few years, is something in between. Something that speaks much more clearly to the concern of the citizen, which obviously is not convergence. Is, do I have access to broadband? Do I have access to basic services like health and education? Are my schools better than they were? Can I have access with reasonable transport infrastructure to airports, to the international, to the rest of the world? These are the questions that we need to answer. And this is the question on which I think there is a need to continue to develop a simpler and more convincing story. And obviously it doesn't help, and Jorge said very clearly, that the policy is complicated because it's not a sectoral policy. It's a policy that, as all development policies, does many things. It finances education, it finances support to small and medium-sized enterprises, it finances infrastructures, education. So how to present in a simple way this complexity is not easy. The Commission has done, and DigiRegio and then the structural fund, the cohesion family departments of the Commission have developed over the past few years new instruments, new ways of communicating better. We have, as you know, an open data platform where everybody can go and see at the level of the region of the country what is happening, how is the money used, what for, what do we want to achieve with that money. And I think it is one of the most, probably the unique example at the European level on how to transparently present what a policy could do. We have improved and our way to evaluate how this policy does, but you know as well that evaluation are not easy reading. We have put in place a number of projects like the integrity pacts that implicate civil society in monitoring and checking how our projects are implemented. The back to schools events that allow to tell what to the kids what Europe does and what this policy does. Regional awards, many different instruments. However, I think that this is not enough, and it will never be enough, even if we have the best communication in the world, because as Jorge said, this at the end of the day, precisely because it's a shared management policy that largely flows through national, regional, and local association, needs to be told by the local and the national level. And this is what, in my view, is largely missing. If there is one policy that is close to the citizen by the way in which is implemented, is this policy. This policy goes through decision in the municipality, at the regional level, in ministries, in member states. It's not dictated by Brussels, because we have realized a long time ago that Brussels is too far away from territories to tell them what they need to do. But they are the one that need to tell the story and tell what this policy does. And without that local mobilization, we will always be confronted with a difficulty to explain what these resources and this policy does. And this is not only a question of transparency and communicating effectively. It's also necessary for the policy to function, because without open, transparent, active debate and involvement of the local and civil society, we will never be able to avoid that this policy is captured by established interest or is subject to rent seeking. And so we mostly need this discussion. And, you know, if there's, I always thought that is really necessary to construct within the programs at the moment in which the programs are developed. And this is, you know, that there is this communication, this partnership principle that is built in the functioning of this policy. And at that moment, it must be constructed from the beginning so that then you have this sort of civil control and monitoring on how the policy operates through time. So I would really leave you with one concern. I think that the policy still is not correctly presented and understood. And second, with the challenge, if you want, on how to construct mechanism. And I can assure you that the Commission and DG Regio is ready to support and animate any ideas that you may develop in a project like Radio Agora to better communicate, and to better involve local authorities and stakeholders in the functioning of this policy. And let me finish with one dream that I have. I always thought that one way that we never explored, that I need to find a way to do it, is to imagine to take a region or a city or a localities and take away all the projects, all the investment the cohesion policy have financed over the past 10 years and see what's left. And this is probably could be a very interesting exercise to show and explain what the policy has done in over its lifetime. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Nicola. I know that you have been very active and very helpful here, and you agreed to speak here, but you agreed also to speak on radio. And you know, nobody can say you're not a busy man. You have to deal with the cohesion of Portugal, Spain, Italy, Greece. I mean, you have really quite a the easiest part of the world. So we are very thankful that you're participating so actively, and your interest is very clear. And on top of it, you're a good speaker, which helps in every way. Now I would like to really open the floor. I mean, you can lift your hand. We have also in the public, for example, I know that from Greece, we have one of our partners, and Joanna, maybe I would like to try to activate you so you can speak, because you on your view of what we have spoken here and the experience you had. I would like to know how to do that. How do I mean, we have to activate your. Sorry for that. Well, we are going to put you on. While we put you on, and I would like to just give you a second again, ask you for this for this Slido, that you will have here these questions. We have now more people putting the answers, so we have our citizens sufficiently informed about the EU cohesion policy, and we can see that generally the answer is no. No surprise about this. We have a question: where should be the information be reinforced by whom? Local authorities, journalists, national government, the European Commission. So you can see here, this is something I was also reaching that conclusion. So I see that people seem to agree, and now there are 12. There are more people attending, so could increase. But there is a concept position that the local authorities should be more involved, and then journalists second. Maybe if local authorities pay more attention to these journalists also will then go, because they go where the news are. So that's and if possible unbiased. So the other thing, the news on the cohesion policy are what news where. That's the most interesting answer, that says what news. There are no news. So that was one of the options. Then otherwise they are neutral or positively or negatively biased. So it seems that people are not considering that there are a lot of bias in it. Is mostly positive. This means that they are not reading UK tabloids in the past. Now that they are not members, they shouldn't be. But anyway, generally, it seems that there is not such a strong view on that, but very strong opinion that the news are not visible. So we will be monitoring these results. Now I think Joanna is on. Can you talk to us? Do you have, or are you muted? We're waiting to see if we can make her give her the floor. Well, in any case, for other people, giving that giving the floor to people is not so easy. I see that I have to ask the technical person to do it. If you have questions to us, you can use the chat, and when we manage to put the microphones on, then you can even talk. Let's see what. It seems that there is a problem on her to. She cannot even hear me, so that's an issue. Okay, while we have a technical problem, I would like to ask you to continue on Slido. I will give you another slide. We can even go back to this later. But one of the things I would like you you can type in is how can you communicate better? So if you can give a few words like a clear message on sorry, I was told that she can speak, but I cannot apparently our colleague Joanna has a problem technically. Okay. In the meantime, if you have ideas about how you can communicate better, it will appear on this slide on the Slido. Yes, I need to also show you the Slido, otherwise you will not be reacting at all. So you have this question: how can you communicate better? So that's and so as I say, please use the chat if you have questions. I mean, from my experience going into one of the issues that I noticed in other countries, particularly one of the things I noticed in Radio Agora was that it was very difficult to make people come. So everybody says that they are very interested in cohesion policy or have a lot of things to say when they are on the street, on a coffee, on a bar. But when you announce an event and you try to bring them into a room and to discuss this, it's tough to get people to really sit in the rooms, engage, and really openly say what they think. So we have managed to some extent, but it's in some cases, but it's really tough to bring them. So there is also an issue about this link where people feel that they are related to it. They don't understand very well how they are related to it, and therefore they find it more difficult to be part of it. Okay. I was told, Diana, you should be able to put your microphone on and speak if you can hear us, because I heard that there is a problem with that. If you cannot hear us, then there is an issue. Now we have some answers appearing on Slido. There is a more personal level engagement. So that's one of the message that we got from this project. The more in-person representatives coordinating with local governments. This is an issue here where we are wondering, maybe the answer is it a question about the presence of EU institutions at national level, of people that there is more engagement, that the shared management should have a more direct link. There is historical reasons why this hasn't been the case in the past, but there is maybe some questioning about how to do it. Maybe we have to discuss more also the role of MAPs that are national on their relationship about it. If here we have an obligation to communicate around the project in local media. Obligation, you mean for the project owners, I suppose, to do it, because hard to force the local media to dictate them what to do, but maybe it's for the projects that have to go and be a bit more active in trying to bring it out. This is already partially part of the work that is being asked for projects, but maybe there has to be more into it. Local authorities to have reports, fact sheets. That is to some extent, there are official obligations for this. This happens to some extent, but it's true that very often the way it's done is not one that is conducive to communicate with people. And so we do have here, and the issue about logos. One of the things that was interesting is that this is a famous scene in the BBC where a person was saying that the EU was not doing anything for them in Wales, and he was standing in front of a huge sign of an EU project in here, and he didn't notice that. So they told him if he could turn around, and he was surprised. So that's another issue about logos and communication. That sometimes even when you do it, it doesn't go through. Make it part of Erasmus and assignments. Well, there we are getting ideas. Now, I see that unfortunately, we have not been able to communicate with our Greek partner. We tried to make a speaker in a desperation. It's a problem with the webinars. It's a bit harder to communicate with people. But I will just tell a bit the differences also that I noticed from the point of view of participating in a different events is that I found it quite it's quite revealing how people are different. I have been in citizens dialogue in Germany and also in Italy and in other countries, and I have been in the radio programs, and I've been in the radio programs in Greece, Spain. Is the way people communicate and intervene at the emotional level is very different. It's really interesting to notice the way people relate and the importance of getting the right kind of speaking the language, even in way of gestures, in way of speaking that people can feel related to. It is hard to get to it, and it's also an effort that one has to do to get into the to have a connection so people feel personally involved in the discussions that are being taking place. So I hope that you found this interesting. Guillaume, would you like to join and give us? Joanna is back. Joanna, I think we have problems here in your case. It's a pity. Anyway, unless you put your microphone and manage to activate on, I'm asking first Guillaume. Guillaume, how are you?
Yeah, I'm there. I've just got, well, Thank you. I don't know if I should close that or if somebody maybe
Well, if
want
Joanna has
to
not
enter in the.
participated, I think that the important thing here is that we have that the message uh, is the fact that people like you and regional radios, regional stations, radio is interesting because people listen to it. Traveling and moving around is still a very important media. There are others, of course, but it's really the importance that as a local station, for example, you're more local is the way it can go. If I'm right, when you operate, you also have a lot of information of local activities, quite mixed. So it's the importance also to get to people that normally are uh, not in a lot of the to people that normally don't get this kind of information at all. So you need different levels. So what is your point on that?
Well, I guess that from the point of view of the partners in general and from MIR TV in particular, I guess that radio has a big advantage among the other media in the sense that radio is linked to credibility, and it has been proved by different Eurobarometers in the past. It means that media is the media, the radio is the media in which the people depose their confidence, and it means that the people trust more in radio than in other media, and that's why I guess not only for that, but it's one of the main advantage. Although that in local media, in local radio, we have a direct link with the citizen, and in this sense it reinforced this feeling of trustfulness in the media, and I guess that it's a very good way for the people to listen to information that are linked from Brussels to their own environment and to their own city, village, region, and so they could really understand what is happening and how the European policy, the European cohesion policy, could improve their daily life. And I guess that this articulation around the media and especially around the radio and in this sense the local radio or the regional one, well, could have a really good impact on the how to transmit and how to transmit this kind of information that could be very difficult to transmit in another way.
Yes. So I see that unfortunately from Greece we have a technical problem.
We have a technical problem. All right.
Yeah. So no, because now here we. So I will have to say. Well, I hope you got you found it interesting to hear about the experiences. I will put you here. This is the document that was published. You'll find it on PDF. It is not an academic document. It is one that explains the challenges of the regions, what was talked, what was presented, what people were saying, what are the fears and the wishes of in each region. The policies, of course, the challenges are there because they were introduced in every session, and it is more a document that is trying to give some insight overall of how in these Mediterranean countries the challenges ahead of employment, climate, economy, innovation are being seen. It is also one of the other things I would like to mention as a last point is that the communicating cohesion has another difficulty is that policies in the EU uh, are more and more interlinked. They are not sectoral, and they are not interlinked also at the level of linking policies that are not part of so-called the cohesion policy, but they are part of competitiveness policies of horizon of research, and they have to be interlinked, and they have to be, you need to be able to invest in innovative capacity with the cohesion to then be able to compete in the innovation thing. Then you have the EIB giving loans, that their own loans, and you have the ones that come from these programs of the recoveries and so on. You need to be able as regions to understand that there has to be a coherence, and this is very much a local effort. And one of the things that happens on this communication, if you read it, is that it's not only about cohesion policy and the cohesion funding and so-called the structural funding, but it's really about how it plays inside the larger picture, which is very difficult for the citizens, but it's possible to communicate to what extent these are important also in linking regions together. The last point I want to say about policies and the communication and is that because there are EU policies, there are standards on using these funds, there are programs, that the programs have certain obligations compared to other regions of the world where the countries are working completely independently. We do have the same words for many technical aspects. We can speak about development, innovation, climate, environmental policies in the different countries with terminology and ways that are similar. And we don't notice that inside the European Union, we can understand each other, even with all languages differences, because we have created the nomenclature of words that are translated, and that we operate with similar procedures. So we get them together. So, and then I would like to give Nicola the floor to just for the last minutes. And Nicola, please.
Thank you, Jorge. I was just it's an invitation, in fact, to the media representative around the table, radio, newspapers, magazines. We are entering an extraordinary phase. Over the next year and a half, the Commission will negotiate, as I said at the beginning of my intervention, around 450 billion euro of investment co-financed by cohesion policy. This is the moment in which the media needs to put pressure on the actors of this negotiation, because otherwise this would be an exercise done behind closed doors by technocrats like me. And while we need transparency, and this is the moment. This is the moment to ask the difficult question: what are you going to do with those resources? What do you want to achieve with those resources? How are you going to change the way in which our citizens live in that regions and in that city? And these are the questions that need to be asked now, because once the negotiation is over, once the program are fixed, then you can monitor obviously how things are happening on the ground, but the key political choices have been made. And this again is really, then I will suggest to have every week, every month, a moment in which you say, well, what's going on with those 450 billion? Where is the money going? What are the decisions that are being taken? And I really urge you to look at this policy in every time, but in particular in this very key phase for the next months and I would say year and a half. Thanks.
Thank you, Nicola. If all the civil servant bureaucrats were like you, would have a much better world. You are very active, and what you're saying is very, very serious. It's true. We have the programming coming now. This is an incredible opportunity. The funds are very significant. The cohesion funds are very significant, and it comes also together with so-called the recovery package. I think so. There are many things can be done with this. One can go very far into many areas, and the question is will the national authorities, local authorities take this in the hand? And it is actually the press, as you're mentioning, the communication people, to put that question. You're right. And with this final note, I will close the session. I hope that this was informative. It will be on YouTube. We will send it around. I think it was very interesting. The debate, Nicola, thanks. What you said was it resonates and should resonate with many people. And thank you very much for participating, to all of you. And have a nice day. Bye.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Adiós. Ciao.